Healing minds, inspiring voices, living truth, making choices. This is your space. Just be you, authentically peculiar with Marcia. Welcome to a space where healing is real, where your voice matters and your truth is enough. With authentically peculiar. Season 5, the year of expansion, healing deeper, living louder, stepping fully into who you are. Authentically peculiar with Marcia. Welcome back to Authentically Peculiar with Marcia. Again, we're in season 5, and I have the pleasure and the privilege to introduce to the audience someone that I was able to listen to in Paris at the women's conference there in Paris. Yes, as a man, he came as a guest speaker. He shared with us his lived experience with mental health, and he shared with us his journey through that discovery of mental health, how he pivoted his life to operate as a journalist for over 20 years, to be an author and a motivator, and to be the voice of the voiceless is his ultimate goal. So, Greg, again, thank you so much for being a guest on Authentically Peculiar with Marcia. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Marcia, for having me on on your program.
You're so very welcome. Well, we're going to dive into things again. Um, just in all transparency, Greg and I recorded this already, but it didn't record. So we're coming back because I think it's more stuff that needs to come out in this recording. Nothing, in my opinion, happens by happenstance. Everything happens for purpose. So with that being said, Greg, at a young age, you entered into the military, and I want you to share your story and what that was like for you, as well as moving into the diagnosis of schizophrenia.
Well, I was a young person after high school. I didn't know what I was going to do. So I finally met an Army recruiter. I was deciding to go either the Navy or Army. I decided the Army because my dad and my brother were in the Army.
Mhm.
And so after high school, I joined the Army. I went through basic training and also training in my specialist, which was electronics.
Mhm.
And then I was sent to Washington, D.C. to work at Walter Reed Army Medical Center. Things were going great there but all of a sudden, I started hearing voices
Mm.
in my head. I thought they were real. And also, I actually started not shaving or showering, and I was getting very paranoid. I would stay in my room all the time.
Mhm.
But I was able to hide it for a while until a surprise inspection came about one day, and they saw my room disheveled and in bad disorder, and they thought there was something wrong. So they set me up to get evaluated, and that's when I found out that I had schizophrenia.
Got you.
I voluntarily committed myself into the inpatient unit. Spent over Christmas season there. Really, it was really bad. I mean, I heard some bad stories in the inpatient unit in the hospital. One of
Yeah.
them tried to one of them tried to take their own life because it was such a bad time there, and that
Mm.
got me encouraged to really think that from that moment on, 40 years ago, I thought to myself, hey, I got to help people, even in their darkest times. I have to help people like myself,
Yeah.
because we all are human beings. We all share the same emotions.
Mhm.
So I got back home and I started believing that there should be some future for me. And my mother was a college professor.
Mm. Mm. Okay.
She encouraged me to go to college, and I went to college for 4 years, and I got a bachelor's degree in English.
Mhm.
It took me a few years to decide where I wanted to go with it, though, because I was still recovering from my schizophrenia. But
Yeah.
I finally found an internship at a magazine in Albany,
Mhm.
and that's where I got the bug. I thought this would be a great mission for me for my life
Mhm.
to really cover stories that I've never heard before, and really expose them to the public and get the word out, because a lot of these stories were about disadvantaged and voiceless people, and
Yeah.
I want to tell their stories because they are very unique stories, and that's how I became a journalist.
I love that. I love hearing, and you could tell that story over and over and over again to me because I love hearing how while you were diagnosed with schizophrenia, you didn't get dressed in it. I always tell clients, don't get dressed in your diagnosis. Your diagnosis is an extension of who you are. And in that extension, being able to say, okay, now I know what it is. Now I can learn how to cope. So, what were some of your coping mechanisms that were put into place for you to create a productive life?
Well, first of all, I had great therapists and psychiatrists
Hmm.
throughout my journey that helped me reduce my symptoms,
Hmm.
and then also with support of my family. That's the core, especially my mother.
Yeah.
I think highly of mothers. Mothers are really the support of the family. I think
Hmm.
in my experience,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that caused me to think that I'm worthwhile. I've got some things going on. I got the future to look ahead of me. I
Yeah.
mean, and then after that, I just decided to say, you know, if my mother and my other family members can support me, other people can support me. So I decided to get mentors and friends that encouraged me to in my career instead of
Yeah.
looking at me as a failure like I looked at myself at the time. They looked at me as a potential success, and so that
Hmm.
encouraged me to go forward with my professional career.
How important is it to have a support system?
I think it's crucial.
Hmm.
Human beings are people that need each other. That's why we
Yeah.
build cities. That's why we build cities to
Hmm.
be around each other, to support each other.
Hmm.
So I think being around people, especially people that encourage you to look out for yourself and for others, I think that's very highly critical in a person's life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Having that support system. I often tell my clients that when you're diagnosed with a disorder, it's just a footprint to help us get you where you want to be. You don't have to lay down in the diagnosis and you can make the pivot to where you want to be. And having that support system really just kind of bridges that stepping stool, that foundation for you so that you can be your best self. So to anyone out there that's been diagnosed with any mental health disorder, and I'll be the first to say, I don't know anyone on this planet that doesn't have experience with anxiety, depression, and even some of the what I call top tier mental health disorders such as schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, borderline, and things of that nature. But you're not lost in that. It's a diagnosis, and it's a diagnosis that Greg is showing us can actually be used to catapult us into things like being a journalist. So tell me about your journey in journalism and people that you've come across that you've had to become the voice for them.
Well, my journey as a journalist coincided with my journey of recovery.
Mm,
I think that the stories that I covered were illuminating to me because they may not have same, they might have not be in the same situation as I was in, but they had similar stories to tell. Stories of adversity and rising from them and being resilient.
mm-hmm,
I can remember if, one of them was when a town was trying to pressure this resident, this family that had horses in their paddock because they
mm-hmm,
thought the paddocks were so small that
mm-hmm,
I got a little paranoid covering that story because I don't know what the repercussions of that would be to
mm-hmm,
me. But I felt that my mission to tell that story was so powerful that I had to go out and, regardless of that feeling of unease,
mm-hmm.
I went out and did that story, and that really affected a lot of positive change through that story.
Yeah.
So media is very powerful in telling stories and narratives of other people and really affecting that positive change when the
Mm-hmm.
public understand what's going on in their communities. And
I
so
love
that's
that.
one of the stories. Mhm.
No, go ahead. I apologize.
So that's one of the stories that I created, that I produced. And I think that the fact is, journalism is so great a career. It helped me out with my with my symptoms and my belief in myself and my
Hmm.
mission is very important. So that's all I have to say for that.
I love how self-aware you were in recognizing that, wait a minute, I'm a little paranoid, but the
Mhm.
message has to get out. I've got to push through and making sure that I put the message out there. And we didn't discuss this earlier, but I do want to tap in that journalism is crucial, especially right now with voices of journalists being suppressed, where they're being threatened, where they're being jailed,
Mhm.
because of how they're expressing themselves. So thank you for constantly being out there and expressing the voices of the voiceless. One of the things that I know that we're facing right now is this current war in Iran. And so you have
Mhm.
two facets in this game of life. One as a journalist telling the stories, and two, becoming a voice for veterans that may not even have the support of being able to express themselves. What were some things that you would say? Oh, bless you. What are
That's
some
okay.
things? It's the allergy season. I've taken a lot of medicine to not be sneezing right now. But
uh,
what would you say to veterans right now who may be experiencing some residuals from the ongoing war and those reminders?
I think veterans should seek the help they need and deserve. I
Hmm.
think I was a peer specialist at the VA at one time, and you have to. A lot of veterans identify with other veterans that experience
Hmm.
the same or similar situations that they expressed.
Hmm.
They often seek out a lot of older veterans that, especially Vietnam veterans,
Yeah.
that really were the forefront in getting our rights and our basic
Hmm.
benefits. And um, I think experience crises like a war in Iran or maybe a massacre in a city that we've currently, we've experienced in the recent past.
Hmm.
I think given that, we definitely have to have support either of a professional therapist, which I highly recommend,
Yes.
or somebody within their families that they can trust, or a loyal friend that even
Hmm.
that could actually be a mentor or a guide for these veterans. And
Yeah.
you don't learn from them; you learn from each other. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not a one way communication pipe. You learn from each other by expressing our stories.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll say, I'll make this public service announcement for the Veterans
Mhm.
Crisis Line because I was a former employee of the VA. I retired in May. I had to go to Congress last May to talk about the Veterans Crisis Line, talk about peer specialists, talk about the VA in general. And I want to encourage every veteran listening to this podcast to understand that pressing 988 does not make you weak. It makes you strong to reach out for support. I also encourage you, like Greg said, having a support system. Your support system may not always understand what you're going through, but you want to have a concrete support system to, if nothing else, to just be present with you. So tap in, bless you, tap into yourself and what's going on, and just know that there are supportive ears that are listening to you and being there for you. So I just want you to know that we hear you and we see you. And like with Greg's journey, even to his diagnosis, started once he went into the military, because you weren't having any hearing voices prior to the military, correct?
And I was not.
Hmm.
It was came out. I think kind of some of these illnesses come out through some sort of trauma.
Trauma.
Um,
Hmm.
especially if you're in combat or child abuse or something like that.
Hmm.
That's trauma, and I think a lot of these peculiar mental health disorders come from trauma.
Absolutely. They have a baseline. I'm a of course a licensed professional counselor, but I'm a certified trauma specialist. I look
Mm.
for the trauma when I'm working with clients because I know that if we can find the trauma point, the entry point, then we can begin to develop skills to help our clients to pivot and better their lives and move into a place where they see themselves. I often say that we're anointed and appointed to be on this planet. So in order for us to do that, we got to go into the barriers that have stopped us. And what I hear you saying is you didn't allow the barriers to stop you. What was your motivation to not allow the barriers to stop you?
My motivation was my friend I met at a Catholic Charities housing apartment when I was almost homeless.
Mm-hmm.
His name was John Crow, by the way. He
Okay.
told me he's no longer around us, but he said to me, "Keep on punching until you punch a winner." And that phrase really got to me. It made me get out of my comfort zone, get out of my
Mm-hmm.
safety zone, and seek out new opportunities in my writing and my journalism and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And without John being there for me at that particular dark time, I would never be what I am today. So I really appreciate mentors like that, and I
Mm-hmm.
think other people need mentors to kick you in your butt, and get
Kick you
out
in your
there
butt.
and do things. Yes, yes, and keep on
Hey,
pushing until that punch that
just
winner.
punch. I so love that. It resonates so well with
Yeah.
me because what it says is take the risk,
Mhm.
take the chance, bet on you. Excuse me, regardless of what the situation or circumstances is, bet on you. Punch through the wall, punch through
Yeah.
those symptoms, punch through those no's. We all hear no. But one no does not dictate what your true outcome is going to be. I'm sure as a journalist, as a author, as a motivator, you've heard no in your lifetime as well. How did that help catapult you into the projects that you're doing now?
Well, like you said, Marcia, I had a lot of no's in my life, like everybody else probably has, more than likely. And all those no's leads eventually to a yes. And
Mhm.
you really have to believe in yourself. I believe in that really highly. You have to believe in your self worth. And even with those no's that you get, you'll eventually get to that yes.
Yes.
And that catapulted me for my journalism career.
Hmm.
I mean,
Hmm.
you have to listen to others, but you also have to listen more specifically to yourself. And
Hmm.
that's the most important thing in life is self belief. When I was in Paris with you, Marcia, I talked about a journalist named Marie Colvin, and she was a war
Hmm.
correspondent. She
Hmm.
she she was unfortunately tragically got killed in 2012 doing her job.
Hmm.
But once she was alive doing her job, her belief was believe in what you do and do it as thoroughly, honestly, and fearlessly as you can. And that's what people I respect um,
Yes.
do in their lives is
Hmm.
believe in your mission and believe in yourself and
Hmm.
believe in others, and that's important for people.
It is. And thank you so much for sharing that because one of the things that we need to understand is the importance of self belief. And I know that we kind of hit on this last time, but I want to bring it back up. We talked about how we became aware because part of your voice is removing the stigma on mental health. And Marie Colvin saying, believe in yourself and show up and be your best. How do you help people understand the importance of reducing the stigma of mental health and then moving forward?
Well, stigma is the most important, most devious culprit in a person's life, especially people with disabilities.
Hmm.
And I think to rise above that stigma, you really have to look at yourself. You really have to. I mean, stigma is something that is self-imposed upon you by a public perception, and it really emanates from the public, either
Hmm.
through movies or books or TV shows or something like that. But
Hmm.
that's all fictional. I mean, you rise above that stigma by really not focusing on your disability, but more like focusing on your abilities.
Hmm.
I mean,
Hmm.
you do have to address that disability through therapy, treatment,
Hmm.
medical care, but you have to focus on that ability to rise above that stigma. That's what I believe in.
And as you were speaking, I always think about rearranging words. Like when I hear the word suicide, I change that to a choice to end life versus suicide because of the stigma. When I hear the word disability, I change that in my head to differed abilities because you still have abilities. They're just different from what society has said they're supposed to be norm. I don't believe in normal because what could be normal in my life isn't necessarily normal in somebody else's
Mhm.
life. I just think that we learn to function where we are. So I agree. Being able to recognize the importance of who you are and where you are and your own ability is vital. I also believe that COVID sent us a gift. COVID forced us to really recognize mental health. It forced us to have to go in and have discussions, and it forced the world to say, we've actually got to start recognizing that people are struggling. I'll say it until the end of time that there isn't a person on this planet that doesn't experience some form of anxiety. If they say they have it, they're lying.
Mhm.
There isn't a
Yeah, I
person on
agree
this
with you.
planet they hadn't had an experience of sadness. If they say they've never been sad and they've been happy all their life, they got a mask on and they're lying because life challenges us and it can bring about moments of anxiety. It may not be diagnosed as a full mental health diagnosis, but the experiences are there. How would you encourage individuals to seek out the help that they need with mental wellness?
Well, just like you said, Marcia, COVID really put us in a spot.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
mean, it became the fact that anxiety was the new normal, but
Yeah.
in that new normal, I would say, but accepting it, there was more acceptance of stress and anxiety.
Hmm. Hmm.
And the thing is, through that, we all we all are human beings. We all face stigma, stress. No matter if you have mental illness, you have a stigma in either your race or your gender or your socioeconomic levels.
Hmm.
But you sort of like accept it as a human emotion because
Yeah.
everybody faces that, and
Hmm.
uh, and then not and when you accept that, you can move forward.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like I'd say, like a former alcoholic, I'd say, if you can accept that you have a disease, and that is a
Mhm.
disease,
It is.
you can actually move forward because you've accepted that for who you are, and you can actually work around it. Because
Hmm.
people are resilient. I mean, human beings, we bounce back from our setbacks. So that's what
Yeah.
I believe. You know, Marcia.
Absolutely. And that's a perfect way and actually a perfect segue into your newest book that you're working on about stress. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I wrote a book about stress in 2012. It's
Hmm.
on Amazon, and it's called Stories of Stress: How to Live Life, a Healthy Life.
Hmm.
And that book illuminated the fact that people have stigma and either a drug addiction or a drug use, actually,
Hmm.
or suicide or weight problem. One of the stories I put in that Stories of Stigma was there's this veteran organization that's trying to get all these flags, not only for MIA or missing action or prisoners of war,
Hmm.
but the veterans that have taken their own lives.
Hmm.
Because he told me once that when a veteran takes his own life, they don't talk about his life. They talk about how he died, and uh,
Hmm.
and we shouldn't be talking about how he died. We should talk about and celebrate how he lived,
Hmm. Hmm.
and uh, and that's why he wanted to get those flags up in every state capital of the country. And I think that's the problem. I mean, we stigmatize difference. We
Hmm.
don't
Hmm.
we don't accept diversity as much as we should, and I think we
Exactly.
should accept it. So that's what I feel anyway, Marcia.
I absolutely agree with that. That's why I don't use the terminology of suicide. You know, when
Hmm.
I talk to my clients, I will say to them, have you had thoughts of completing your life? Because it
Hmm.
becomes a choice. It becomes, an idea of, I can't take it anymore. Okay, well, tell me why you're considering completing your life at this point. It removes that heaviness of using the terminology suicide, because you're right. Too many people focuses on the how
Hmm.
versus focusing on the story of their life and how there may have been some things missed, in that process. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like stigma actually causes people to not talk about of
Mm-hmm.
this stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
by talking about it, it makes people help each other.
Yeah.
I mean, suicide and cancer go the same way. I mean, we don't talk about it, but if we
Mm-hmm.
talk about it, we can actually support each other as a human family. And I think that's what's the problem with stigma is.
I
Stigma
agree.
tells people not to talk about it or talk about it in false ways. And I
Mm-hmm.
think we should talk about these things as
Absolutely.
people.
We do, and we will continue to talk about it. And as long as I have a voice, I always say, as long as I'm 6 feet up, I'm gonna talk about it until I have
Yes,
no more breath to talk about it, because it's
yes.
important. It's important for us to understand and accept each person as an individual and know that life is doing
Mhm.
what it's been conditioned to do. So tell me, as we get ready to close out, how do you resonate with being authentically peculiar?
I resonate by being authentically peculiar, by not by accepting my mental illness for what it is, by that peculiarity, but also be authentic by being your true self. I
Yeah.
mean, when you're your true self, when you are aligned to your mission and you believe in yourself, and you actually believe in your team and your support group,
Hmm.
that's when your peculiarity shines forth in a positive way. And
Yeah.
getting those cheerleaders, those coaches, that's important for your self belief and motivation.
Hmm. Absolutely. I love that. I love how you broke down being authentically peculiar. So tell me this, or tell the audience, how can we find you, follow you, support your mission, your vision, and your purpose? Where can we find you?
You can find me on my website. It's called www.gregoryhitchcock.com. You can subscribe to my newsletter on that site. My social media is linked to that site. You can find me on LinkedIn through Gregory Hitchcock, and look for the Gregory Hitchcock of Gloversville, New York. I think there's another Gregory Hitchcock somewhere else.
Mhm.
And really, if you want to know more about me, reach out to me through email, greghitch66 at gmail.com. I'd really be happy to help in any kind of
That's
endeavor.
You forgot one thing. Go to
Yes.
Amazon and go to Barnes and Nobles. Look up Gregory Hitchcock, grab copies of the book, and then read the book, and then reach out to Greg and say, hey, I read this. Want to talk about it a little bit more? I know any of your upcoming projects will come back together again to get the word out. I think that you are doing a beautiful job with being the voice for those that have been voiceless and silenced. I so appreciate you for being a guest on Authentically Peculiar with Marcia and taking time out of your day to spend with us. So thank you again. So to our audience, thank you for tuning in to this episode with Gregory Hitchcock. Please go out and support him on social media, buy his books, have conversations, share and and make comments so that we'll know what else we can bring to you on Authentically Peculiar with Marcia. You all have a great day. Thank you for sharing time and space with us today on Authentically Peculiar with Marcia. Don't forget to comment, and share the podcast with everyone that you know. In addition, go out and support each of the guests and their own social platforms. Buy their products, leave them a comment. We'll see you on the next episode of Authentically Peculiar with Marcia.